Hello everyone, I hope you're doing fine and I hope the festive season is actually going well for you as well as the holidays. Now, today I want to talk about something that has been making rounds on social media about the remarks that were made by one of the clergymen or one of the bishops in Uganda, known as Archbishop Cyprian Chizitoranga, as well as other religious leaders and what they have come, what they have been saying in the past and how it influences our politics and what it means for the future of Uganda. I think what I'm going to be talking about is state and religion, or the issue of, what role religion plays in a state and what's the role of the state on how it deals with the religion or religious leaders. For those of you who are from Africa, of course, you understand that our nation states had the creation of modern African states. Some of the backdrop or some of the foundation on which these modern African states were created, it had a powerful element of missionaries, and for that reason, it had a powerful element of religion. Now we shall see that it was first the coming of the explorers, then coming of the missionaries, or the other way around, and then from that point, what it led to, it was actually colonization. Now, fast forward for countries like Uganda, whenever we got our independence, two prominent religions decided or were very influential in our politics. That is the Anglican Church as well as the Catholic Church. Regardless of all that, these were not the first religions to actually come in the country. The first religion to come in the country was Islam, and the missionaries actually came 30 years later, before the coming of Islam. But the purpose of Islam was not colonization, it was trade. And that is why you see today that we have a very bigger population of Christians, in different denominations than Muslims, on the other hand. Now, that is not the most important issue, because when these people came, actually, Uganda, different kingdoms were governing and ruling themselves. So they went to Berlin and crafted the modern day boundaries of Uganda. And then when we got those boundaries, that is where we find ourselves today. Now, the issue of religion is very important in politics, in African politics. But on the other hand, it doesn't, or the influence of religion has actually increased in one way or the other. Now, you will look at, for example, Uganda in the 60s when we were gaining independence. The UPC, known as the Uganda People's Congress, was a party of the Anglicans as well as the Kabaka. On the other hand, the DP, also known as Democratic Party, it was a party for the Catholics. And people would identify themselves that if you're DP, you're Catholic. If you're UPC, then you're Anglican. Now, what happened afterwards is, of course, the role of religion went on reducing with time. We see the coming of Idi Amin, a Muslim who actually, of course, worked with different religions in different ways, using religion in order to play politics, as well as all these other leaders, the likes of Obote. They also used religion to play politics, creating factions within the Muslim community. For Idi Amin, of course, we also know what happened with Janan Rumu and all these other people. And then again for Obote, too, also used religion and politics, especially amongst the Muslims. They were so divided during those days, because Muslims never identified themselves with a particular political party. So what happened initially, the ground was already laid. That is why you see the massacre that happened in Nyamitanga, in western part of Uganda. It was a massacre that was targeted towards Muslims in 1979, whenever Amin was being taken out of power. The people who came and massacred people, the likes of people like Rakasisi and all these people, they said that they had actually uprooted the tree, which was Amin, saying that they had uprooted the tree, which was Amin, who was a Muslim, and now the branches have to be cut down. I'll come someday and talk about the massacre in Nyamitanga and how the present government actually hasn't answered these questions. By then, Museveni was the Minister of Defense, and people in Imbarara and those other areas around that area were actually slaughtered. People were slaughtered who were children, women, even people with pregnant women. They had to throw themselves in rivalries. To this day, these people have never been compensated. To this day, these people have never received justice. Over 79 people were killed during that day. But the major reason as to why these people were attacked is because they were Muslims, number one. And secondly, it is because these people were also, they are people who had come from, Uganda and gone to the western part of Africa to integrate and so on and so forth. But present day, as we speak today, of course, that statements that came from the Archbishop were really, 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 eye-raising for anyone who is following politics today, because we have to understand what is the role of religion, what is the role of religious leaders, and how can these two coexist in one way or the other. Now, the most prominent religions that we have today that, are very kind of influential in politics, but not per se, of course, it is the Anglican Church, as well as the Catholic Church, then as well as the Muslims, then, of course, the born-agains. For the past 35 years, we all know that the born-agains had been banned in the previous regimes, but then Museveni brought them back. So these born-agains, they thought that for Museveni bringing their religion back, they should be voting Museveni. And of course, they have played that role. But now, the youths who have grown up under these churches are now deciding, or they are now having different opinions from their pastors. They are saying, okay, if you're Pastor Kayanja or you're Pastor whatever, and you support Museveni, I'll still come to your church, but I'll support the opposition. I'll support Bobby Wine. So it means that these people, they no longer have influence, or they no longer have control over their flock in one way or the other. Now, the same thing also happens in other religions. For example, in Islam. Islam has been very much targeted for the past 35 years by Museveni and his cronies. You see, they have divided the religion into different, like they have divided Muslims, getting them to attack one another, creating different sects. That's why you see that you have a sect that is in Chibuli, then you have a sect that is in Old Kampala. And Museveni, when he had just come, for those of you who know very well, before he went to the bush, actually, he went to Chibuli to see the father of the present Muslim leader in Chibuli called Nachiringe. His father, Prince Badru Kakungulu. Museveni, when in the 1981 elections, after he lost, he went and told him that, please, I'm going to the bush. And Kakungulu actually made a prayer for him. And when Kakungulu died in 1990, Museveni attended his burial. In 2001, early 2001, Museveni made sure that the factions in Uganda, Muslim factions, they actually all come under one umbrella. He thought that he would control them all under one umbrella, but as a matter of fact, these people, they realized his intentions and they had to split. That is why you see one faction remained in Old Kampala, and then the other faction actually diverted and went to Chibuli, and that's where it is even up to today. So we have seen different things happening in the Muslim community, arrest of Muslims being suspects in bombings, in killings, and all this kind of thing. And no other religious institution has come out to condemn the unfair treatment of Muslims in the country. Not the Anglicans, not the Protestants, not the Catholics, not the born-agains. They say, oh, okay, Muslims, that's your issue. You sort yourselves out. So Muslims had to go through all this for over 30 years without anyone coming to their rescue. But the only thing that happened was, even in the split of Muslims by Museveni, also the the Catholic Church as well as the Anglican Church tried to block some of the policies or some of the things that would, help out Muslims. For example, the issue of Islamic banking, the issue there was an issue of Islamic banking, bringing Islamic banking in the country, and so on and so forth. These things were blocked by some of the other religions because they thought that Islamic banking coming to Uganda, it would affect their other banking systems. For example, the Centenary Bank as well as the Bank of the Anglicans, of which there was no evidence that it would actually affect them. But what these people were doing is for self-interest, because it doesn't say anywhere in the Quran or in the Bible that you should block other people's banks, or you should block other people that do not belong to your religion. You should block their banks. It is not anywhere in the Bible. But then what happened a few days back, or the Archbishop making statements that their elections should be postponed and that we should amend the constitution and award Museveni 3 more years of leadership. And then after, what happens? Because the Archbishop, what he was saying was that, of course, we should do this because Museveni has, in order to maintain peace and avoid COVID and people dying and all this kind of stuff. But the Archbishop, did not look at the fact that people had been killed in November 18th and 19th. I'm so disappointed that their sermons and everything, they are not concentrating on that point of murdering people and asking for justice like the Kabaka of Uganda is doing today. But they are concentrating on the point of COVID-19 as well as peace. Everyone wants peace. It is only Museveni who should be preached to give peace to accept peace in one way or the other. But the Catholic Church is very, very interesting in Uganda. Because the problem is that Museveni, for those of you who don't know Uganda, Museveni is too corrupt that he has even corrupted religious institutions. Instead of demanding for the right things, they are always demanding for money. They are always demanding for money for churches. They are always demanding money for their conferences. For example, the Catholic Church, the president played a very big role in bringing the Pope twice, and for the Catholic Church they see that as an achievement. Then they were supposed to have the Episcopal Conference last year, and they expect the state to come and finance all these kind of things. Whenever the Catholic Church was building the Centenary building as well as their other building, they always expect the government to come and give them. Of course, if at all the government comes and give you this money and all these kind of benefits, they are not just giving you for nothing. They are giving you in order to control your consciousness and also to control whatever you have to say. So the words that came out of the Archbishop and all other religious leaders, to me, they do not come as a surprise, because these are some of the things you expect. When the government is giving you cars, it's giving you this, then it's also going to give you spies. The same Archbishop 2 years ago, he was complaining that the president had spies amidst him. People who were not even, he had made. Can you imagine having a bishop who is moving with a gun? Those scenes that we have them in Uganda today. Bishops are, you look at a bishop today and you're like, okay, wait a minute. They are moving with guns. We have sheikhs moving with guns. This is how insecure the entire country has come. Because when one of the bishops died, what do you call him? The Museveni's spies came from the SFC and they said, look here, we are here to pick our gun. And the Archbishop was like, which gun are you talking about? They told him, no, the Archbishop that died, he was one of us. He was giving us intel. He's like, what? Yes, he was giving us intel. The Archbishop was very angry. How could Museveni do this to me? Then the next day, him and Museveni met, and then we saw a brown envelope on the side. That brown envelope is the insignia that each and every one who receives it is not going to be on the side of the people. The problem with religious leaders today, they want to serve three masters. They want to serve the people, they want to serve Museveni, and they want to serve God. But whom are you going to choose? If you are going to serve God, surely you should know what is going on in the country. Surely one of the biggest crimes in religion is murder. If a person commits murder, there is nothing, absolutely nothing you can come out to protect this kind of person. There's no justification you can give. You are not even supposed to be speaking about peace when people were just murdered a few weeks ago. You should be asking for accountability. We should be praying for their souls. The people who were murdered, there is no religious leader that came out to organize some sort of a mass, some sort of a mass or some sort of a dua for these people that were murdered, that were killed in cold blood. But all they are coming out to do is now to telling us about COVID-19 and playing politics in favor of the state. Now, suffice to say, all that happening, we have to look at elsewhere what religious leaders are doing. For example, in the early 90s in Malawi, there was a group of bishops. I think there were around 8 bishops. What they did was this. This gentleman known as Hastings Banda, who was becoming an authoritarian leader, he had become a pain in the backside of the people of Malawi, and he was refusing to open up and to accept opposition and all this kind of thing. So the bishops there, they actually wrote, 8 bishops stood up and wrote a letter. It's called, I think, that living. I've forgotten the name of the letter that they wrote. When they wrote this letter, protesting protesting Banda's behaviors, right? They made sure that every church read the same message. Everyone had the same message. All churches around Malawi. That is what these people did. In Malawi, that is what they did, the church. So the church, did this sort of protest. But Banda arrested them and threw them in jail. After throwing them in jail, they even contemplated, they were talking about actually murdering them in order to silence these bishops. 8 bishops. Go and read about Malawi, Hastings Banda and the bishops. So what happened was, all of a sudden, the pressure mounted and people started raising up. People started protesting in Malawi. Why is Banda not opening up? And they were already tired. They were ripe for revolution. So what happened? Banda opened up, and then opposition was allowed to contest free and fairly. And in the end, Banda was defeated. And Bakiri Muluzi, actually, who is a Muslim, took over, which is interesting. That the bishops fought for multi-party politics in Malawi. And when it was opened up, Banda was overthrown, and Bakiri Muluzi, who is a Muslim, actually took power. That is how we have to coexist in a state that we were all thrown into. We are a mixed bag. So if religions cannot coexist and they are looking at each other as competition in terms of materialism and in terms of money, then we are in for a rough ride. Also, I'll make this point. In 2007, there's a gentleman known as Archbishop Sentamu. He's the Archbishop of York, I think in England. He contested with Jack Welby, and then, of course, he was defeated. Now, what is interesting about Sentamu is Ugandan. He's Ugandan. He's a brother to a pastor known as Kayanja, who is a prominent pastor in Uganda as well. I always wondered, what is the role of these religious leaders? In 2007, while Sentamu was appearing in a show, one of the most popular political TV shows here, called Andrew Marr, he took out his dog collar. I will show you the video. He took out his dog collar and he cut it in 2 pieces in protest of Mugabe's policy, discrimination, and what he has done to the people of Zimbabwe. You know that Mugabe had taken people's land, he had beaten people up, he had beaten the opposition, Morgan Shangalai, into the pipe, and all this kind of stuff. So the Archbishop protested. And I was like, wow, this is so good. We have a Ugandan representing. So the Archbishop, afterwards, he was very furious for African leaders not to stand with him and not to stand with other leaders to protest against Mugabe and his policies. In the end, from his protest, the Archbishop of cutting the dog collar, it went very viral all over the internet. The European Union issued sanctions on Mugabe. Later that year, there was an EU-Africa conference. Mugabe was refused from attending. The Germans condemned these actions everywhere in the European Union. They condemned the actions of Mugabe, and he was put on sanctions. That was the work of one Archbishop Sentamu.
As an Anglican, this is what I wear to identify myself, that I'm a clergyman. Do you know what Mugabe has done? He's taken people's identity and literally, if you don't mind, cut it to pieces. This is what he's actually done to a lot of, and in the end, there's nothing. So as far as I'm concerned, from now on, I'm not going to wear a dog collar until Mugabe is gone.
My goodness. Archbishop, that is a dramatic gesture, and everybody will observe it. Thank you very much indeed for coming in to join us.
Thank you, and keep my pieces, by the way.
I'll keep
collect them until the day when Zimbabwe is free.
We'll give you them back. I have got them for you. They've been sitting in my desk. They're in a slightly crumpled old envelope, but here they all are. And I said I'd give them back,
thank you.
So I give them back.
Thank you.
There they go. If you can pull right there.
Yeah. Oh, they're all in here.
Yeah. They're all there, yes.
You know, Andrew, I could attempt to put this one back, or I could try and put them all together using super glue.
It would be a pretty ropey collar, Archbishop.
Ropey collar. And I actually think the lesson for Zimbabwe is the same. They just can't try and stitch it up. Something more radical, something new needs to happen in terms of the rule of law.
So here is the million-dollar question. Are you going to put a collar back on again now, Archbishop?
Andrew, I promise that when Mugabe goes, I'll put my collar on. So I have no choice but to put it back on.
Give you a promise, that's
Absolutely. And Mugabe has gone, but the new president has got to remember something more new than just simply stitching up a thing.
Now, you should also understand, in Uganda, we have a presidential candidate called Sentamu. And as Africans, we know very well, when you hear someone who has a similar name to you, you always call him or address him as brother. Because in Uganda, if Sentamu and Sentamu, they all come from the same lineage, they share the same totem in one way or the other. Now, Sentamu, he almost survived, he has survived death like 6 times. People have been killed. People's land has been taken. Everything that Mugabe did to his people, Museveni has done. Museveni has done. A few years back, when Mugabe was overthrown out of power, the Archbishop came back on the same TV show and he put his dog collar back. And he said, "Oh, I said that I will put this back unless Mugabe is gone." That was his protest. And when Mugabe was gone, they called him back on the TV show and he put it back on. The Archbishop Sentamu, we are asking you one last time, and this is for your motherland, this is for your Uganda, this is where your ancestors are, to take out that dog collar one last time. Take it out one last time for the love of Africa, for the love of Uganda, and show the dissatisfaction that you showed on Mugabe. Because whatever you are talking about, Archbishop, whatever you talked about on that particular show, Bishop Sentamu, it has happened under Museveni. People have been taken off people's land. People have been murdered. People have been killed in Kasese. It happened. Just a few months ago, it has happened. And the bishop, the clergyman, is just quiet. Maybe he doesn't know what is going on because most of these clergymen are not on Facebook and things of that sort. But I think he has relatives back home that tell him what is happening. He knows. But he's quiet. Why? These are questions that we ask ourselves. So if the elderly are not fighting for justice, then the youths have to raise up and fight for justice. If at all people like Dr. Martin Luther King did not stand up and protest, did not stand up and fight for the rights of African Americans in the United States of America, the black Americans would not be where they are today. They are not there yet, but he tried. Dr. Martin Luther King, a Reverend, people like the Reverend Jesse Jackson. These are all men of God. They did their job. They held the governments accountable. They stood with the people because they understood. The problem with most of the religious leaders, they wear glasses. And when they're wearing glasses, they see completely different things than the rest of the people see. When you see a religious leader wearing glasses, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, I'm not trying to mean anyone, but they see it from a completely different angle. And I think they need to take the glasses off. They need to come down to the people and tell them and talk to them, because all we need, whenever politics fails, whenever everything fails, we always run back to our religious leaders. We always run back to these people to give us hope. When all hope is gone. That is why in Rwanda 1994, when the genocide was happening, people were running to churches for sanctuary. There's a situation where the leader, one of the church leaders, had to send people away to die. He denied them. He said, "Go away from my church. You're going to get me killed." That's what happened. People were running towards mosques. And today, what is happening is these people have refused to actually speak truth to power. The question will always remain on how state and religion can work together. But things have just been made harder by the current religious leaders, unfortunately, that we have in the country. They are not making things any better for us. You cannot say when we are close to actually bringing about justice, to actually bringing about democracy, to actually bringing about a freedom of expression and freedom of speech, and then you say, no, guys, we should extend the elections for 3 more years. 3 more years of what? Archbishop, with all due respect, because I also have, my mother comes from a Catholic background. That is how Uganda is. Every religion here has, even the Archbishop has his family who are Muslims, which is interesting. And Anglicans, and it's a mixed bag. You do not have a generation of people who are just Christians throughout in the country. No. They always have someone there who is Muslim, Catholic, blah, blah, blah. That is how we coexist. Uganda is a country that is very diverse in religion, in culture, and all these aspects. But as people who are being oppressed, we have managed to keep ourselves together. That is why you see that Bobi Wine has succeeded in this environment. That people cannot look at him because he's a Muganda, because he comes from a different tribe or comes from a different religion. There are so many Muslims that are supporting Bobi Wine, who is a Catholic. There are so many Anglicans who are supporting. All those barriers have been broken. So you cannot say that now, okay, let us give Museveni 3 more years. Well, Archbishop, I would like to assure you that 3 more years of more constitutional amendments, 3 more years of more injustices, 3 more years of more murder of innocent people, 3 more years of more incarceration and arrest and unfair treatment of Muslims, 3 more years of more murders that are going to go unsolved, 3 more years of more high-profile matters, 3 more years of more intervention in religion and more intervention in religious aspects of our country, and so on and so forth. So please, next time when a religious leader is choosing their words, they should choose them very, very, very wisely, especially in this situation that we are in. Thank you very much for listening to me. Subscribe to the channel, and I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Have a great time. Bye-bye.